welcome to our Shades and Justice podcast. I am Dr. Evelyn Hill, and I'm very excited to have our guest with us on this morning from the Kansas City, Kansas Public School District. I'm going to let this beautiful young lady introduce herself, and she's going to tell us her name because I don't want to crucify her name. And then she will tell us the position she works in at the school district.
Absolutely. My name is a little bit of a mouthful. I am Kenise Selena Willick. I am the Executive Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion for the Kansas City, Kansas School District.
All right. Thank you for that, Miss Kenise. Did I say the first name right?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
I'm on a roll this morning. Okay. Well, tell me, how long have you been with the school district and some of the different roles that you've been in, and give us some information about the role you play now at the KC State School District.
So I feel like my journey to this position has been a great one. This is my 11th year in the Kansas City, Kansas School District. I have been a principal in 2 of the elementary schools for the past 10 years. And so I have been at JFK and at New Chelsea Elementary. But my journey started as an elementary teacher. I have my bachelor's in education, and I taught for about four years. I have my master's in counseling / family therapy, and I've done that for about 4 or 5 years. And I still do that off and on. I'm actually taking on a client here in this week. I also have my ed specialist in K through 12 administration, and I'm currently working on my doctorate in administration and leadership. So it's been a long road.
Yes, ma'am. And
Yeah.
you're in school.
And
Wow.
I'm in school, yes.
So, oh my gosh, so you get free time, it's just limited.
I don't even have free time. I don't even know where that is.
Yeah. Well, I understand totally. So I know there are many challenges in urban school districts across our country, and KCK Public Schools has experienced its own challenges, and but of late, one that has been a little bit different for us is that we have had 2 new superintendents in the last 3 to 4 years, and so that I'm sure poses opportunities for more challenges. So what have you seen different since these changes has happened, and especially during 2020 with COVID and the school district?
Yeah, I've had the opportunity to be there through all of those changes. And at times it felt difficult as a principal. So I was on the ground. I was, trying to console and support teachers with the transition. But throughout the time, I'm glad that you asked about the strengths of the district and not the deficits, because at the building level, that's what we do. We don't look at all the things that impact, that could impact our day or the negative things that come our way. We stay focused on the positive. So there are 3 things that I think that throughout COVID, throughout all of this time, we focused on college readiness. We wanted to make sure all of our kids are prepared for college, even at the elementary level. We still put up our college banners. We still had our virtual college and career day. We still did, we celebrated reading and writing. We really focused on first tier instruction. I did Zoom walkthroughs. We do walkthroughs all the time, and my team and the instructional coaches, and even our supports from the state, and also our supports. We have a company, the National Center of Urban Transformation. They're kind of our support systems, and they came and did Zoom walkthroughs. And so we never stopped progress. We still looked at data. We analyzed data, we recorded our walkthroughs and then looked at them as a team and said, what could we have done better? We
Mhm.
highlighted engagement because we knew the kids would, be tired by the end of the day or frustrated with technology when they didn't have it. But teachers had to find ways to engage these kids and keep them motivated. So the three things we did: college readiness, first tier instruction, and data analysis, I think was a big emphasis for us.
Mhm. Kanice, thank you for that. And I appreciated you highlighting the positive things. And I think too often our community, our county, our city, our country focuses on too much negativity. And the
Yeah.
one thing I noticed when I was a part of the KCK school board a few years ago, the one thing I noticed was there was not enough emphasis on the very positive things that a lot of the kids were doing. We had kids going to several of the Ivy League colleges with 4-year scholarships. I was amazed because I never heard anybody talk about
Yeah.
the extent of the successes that we have had here in Kansas City, Kansas public schools. So thank you for sharing that. Another thing, how did you all get through COVID? You had to figure out what in the world do we do as teachers? What do we do with the students? How do we continue our professional development under the umbrella of COVID? But you
Yeah.
all did it. How
Yeah.
did you get that done?
Well, the first thing we did was we were very clear with communication. And
Mhm,
so I applaud Kansas City, Kansas. We did not do the flip flop like most districts did.
mhm,
And as much feedback or grief or whatever people wanted to say, we stayed consistent.
mhm.
And that helped our teachers stay focused and consistent. The second thing we did was we did not hide any communication. When the communication came down from the district, which was very effective and efficient because we put teams together, I happened to be part of one of the COVID teams. I then could translate that information to my building in a concise, efficient, and fast way. And that's how I've always led as a district leader. I gave my staff what I think they needed at the time,
Mhm.
but it was very clear and transparent. And so I feel like we were transparent, which led to our teachers feeling like they were highly supported. And so we had groups. Everybody, I feel like all the principals and all the leaders, we developed these teams, and we had teams who were tracking down kids for attendance, and we were calling, and we would call it Monday and Thursday check-ins. And then we had groups of people going to the houses, and we had groups of people on the technology deployment teams. And I felt like we were just like we were hitting the road. And so it was nice. It was good to see that we all came together. It was a common cause, and and the thing, Dr. Hill, what it felt like is it didn't go across, like being in DEI, it had no racial. I mean, COVID didn't spare anybody. You could be
Correct.
rich, poor, black, white, everybody felt the same. It was the first time in our country that everybody was on the same playing field.
Wow. Yes.
And so
Yes.
it was like, we better do what we can together to support all kids. And I
Mhm.
felt like that's what happened because our teachers who may not connect with our kids at school, their kids were feeling the same way at home. So then they had to go, wait a minute. If my kids are having the same effect, because usually it's, oh, my kids don't, these kids or those kids. No,
Mhm.
it's our
Okay.
kids.
Exactly.
So it was beautiful to me. I always looked at the silver lining during COVID, and looking for the positives that came out of that, and that was one of them.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing that. I think our nation needs to hear that from someone who is boots on the ground, to
Yes,
hear the camaraderie among the team members there at the school district with every school, with all the administrators. Wow, that what an awesome report.
Yeah.
And I must admit, I've never heard anyone speak of the silver lining during COVID. So I appreciate that so much, and how it affected all of us, all of our kids, and how it did not affect us according to race or gender. When the country shut down, it shut us all down. So
Yeah.
absolutely. Thank you for that. All right. Now, would you tell me a little bit more about this new position that you are
Sure.
in? And then after that, we'll go into a couple of other areas of discussion.
Absolutely. So this DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, it is an exciting position. So my background is basically in sociology. I love the study of people. With a master's in counseling, with this background in diversity, I've taught at KU CNT 235. I taught there for 3 to 4 years. It's the only cultural diversity class that KU educators take when going out to teach. That's a problem, but we'll talk about that later.
Okay.
I've also taught cultural diversity at St. Mary's, and then I do some consulting. So throughout COVID, I was consulting right here on Zoom with schools all over the country who really need support in talking about race and talking about equity and talking about inclusion, because what COVID also did was highlighted our horrible I mean, what a lot of races have been struggling with. And it was really magnified of our dividing lines and the war that we're in with our racial war here in our country. So it sparked something in people. It sparked good and bad. But what I found is that it allowed for positions like this, because these positions, and Dr. Hill, you know this, these positions were nestled in HR. It was a
Yes.
reactive approach
Wow.
to a problem, and not a solution or training or what we needed to do before you hit HR or title. And so finally, K-12 education said, we need to do something to train our teams, our people, so that we are not being reactive and we're being proactive. And so that's how I see this. And DEI is the foundation to everything. Every company, everybody needs diversity, equity, inclusion, because what it's saying is you value everybody sitting at the table. You value everyone, no matter what the intersectionality is, race, sexuality, abilities. And then getting that notion that it's just about race out of it's not just about race. And so I'm excited for this. I'm also excited that our new superintendent, Dr. Stubblefield, she has the passion that I have. She has been working with this initiative where she came from. And so I'm not sitting on an island in my department. That's another thing, that when you start new departments and people don't really know what you're doing and what it's for, and they're afraid it has the titles diversity, and they're going to have to, like, everyone has their own opinion about this position.
Correct.
Good or bad, right? And so I think I get to do a few things. I get to shape it the way that I see it. I get to add value from different departments and different people. I get to have some structures being brought down from a superintendent who's done this work before. And we are going to be able to I'm already affecting. I mean, we'll go down. I don't want to steal your thunder in your questions, but I've affected so many people so far in our district. I mean, custodians are smiling because they have a voice now, just through some of the trainings that we are going through our
Excellent.
department.
That's excellent.
So I'm so excited. Dr. Hill, I could talk about this position for days. And not to mention, though, it's tiring, though. It's emotional.
Yes.
But it's the work that should have been done 20 years ago, 30 years ago.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I'm excited that you are there and giving voice to all employees, to all team members of the school district, and valuing each and every one of those individuals' strengths and passion that they bring to the school district. So wow, we're excited about that. So um, I wanted to get into talking about the Title II and Title III mandates, and maybe mandates is a little strong,
That's
but
what they're called. They're mandates.
wow, okay.
They're mandates.
Okay, so could you first of all explain what is Title II and Title III, and then how that affects the kids in the school district?
Absolutely. So Title II really works with the special education department. Title III is really ELL and ESL students. So Title II, and I'm going to actually read it word for word of what it says because it's really clear what they want you to do. It
Okay.
says it prohibits discrimination against qualified individuals with disabilities in all programs, activities, and services of public entities. So prohibiting discrimination means that everyone, no matter what your ability or disability, you should have access to what everyone else has access to. That's huge.
Mhm.
That's big. What I take from that and what I remember a few years ago, the state called to action the over suspension of Black boys in special education.
Mhm.
So that to me, that's still a goal for
Yes.
everybody in the state of Kansas, right?
Mm.
But that doesn't eliminate students who have learning disability, learning disabilities, physical disabilities, but it still says that we have a huge problem with the
Mhm.
over suspension of special education and Black boys. And
Mhm.
so my passion for equality and access in special education it's been something that I've been passionate about for years because my sister, who back in the day, they didn't know how to label students.
Yes.
And and they only gave her the title of learning disability, but now that we know better, she's probably autistic or has high functioning Asperger's. And
Mhm.
so I recall her being isolated and she had to go to one school and I had to go to a different school
Mm.
and I'm like, what are we doing here? How are our teachers being trained? So as a district, that's where DEI has to be a part of because I need to understand, first of all, what do our teachers know about discrimination? Let's break down what it means when they say prohibit discrimination. Everybody wants to tell you they know about, oh, I know what a special education student looks like. I know abilities and how to teach kids who may not know how to read. But do you really get when you don't see a child and give them the minutes necessary, or when you don't follow up with a parent, or when you don't, like, what does discrimination look like when it's
Mhm.
unequal or not balanced? And so I think it's about training teachers. And I hate to say this, it's 2021 that I got to train at this point about what discrimination really does look like.
Mhm.
But we have to go deep inside of ourselves because we have some biases, even in kids who have disabilities. And
Yes.
so we have our own thoughts about what it should look like, what it shouldn't look like, who should get services, who shouldn't deserve services. If because of their parents, well, their parents don't care, or that's not your job to decide. The law says this is what the law says. So I am of the support with the social emotional team that we have to start to look at restorative practices, not just the teaching. Yeah, teaching is good, but we need to look at other ways in which our kids are not learning.
Mhm.
What is the social emotional aspect of our students with disabilities, and how are they being treated all across the board? Are they
Mhm.
given opportunity to have mindful moments and to decompress and have opportunity to not sit in a in-school suspension room or be suspended, that we have other ways to support them? And then Are we teaching social emotional strategies? And do we even know them ourselves? And so that's
Mhm.
my role in DEI, is to partner with special education and with our student learning, um, our social emotional teams, and to
Mhm.
help teachers understand their own biases and understand what discrimination really means, and then to help them support students in the way that they should be supported. As,
Mhm.
oh, you want me to go to Title III? But
Yeah,
more questions on that?
I know you on the roll, but
I
I
love
have to, let me just give you a minute to catch your breath.
it.
May I say thank you, seriously, because like you said, this should have been done over 20 years ago. So
Mhm.
over 20 years ago, my two sons were in the KCK public school system. And not that they were the best kids in the world, but they did find themselves suspended on a regular basis. They neither one were in special education classes. However, um, there was some challenges, and for whatever reason, they were often suspended. I worked full time at the time. So I was challenged. What do you do with a teenager who's suspended from school? He's at home all day doing what? And so that for me as a parent to hear that the school district acknowledges that there is a large percentage of brown and black boys being suspended, and for whatever reason, at least acknowledging that and saying, okay, we're going to do something about it. That gives me great, great encouragement. And thank you for acknowledging that and even saying that on our show today. Many, I believe, both around our country, uh, and even so now the girls too of color, brown and black, are being suspended at an enormous rate. And I just believe there's got to be other alternatives. And I heard you say that there are other opportunities that we can have in our educational system that helps those kids. Okay, now I gave you a chance to breathe before.
But Dr. Hill, I have to go. I
Yes.
got to go one more place with that too.
Okay, go ahead.
Here's the thing that I think is missing. We are afraid to talk about what we are afraid of.
Yes.
And I think there are a lot of people out here, and unfortunately, sometimes our schools, I'm okay with it because I'm in brown skin, right? I'm
Uh-huh.
okay with it because I had a son who's in the same spot and had the same challenges in a predominantly white environment. I'm
Mhm.
okay with talking about what fears there are and what we have to navigate and what spaces we have to navigate. What a lot of people are not courageous to say is that I have some biases or biases that keep me from understanding the black boy, the black girl, the brown boy, the
Mhm.
brown girl. And we got to stop that and talk about it, because
Mhm.
that's what's I could say could ruin some of our students' lives, or even or give them challenges for the future to be successful. And so I have to say, and I'll be real, my staff, they started to say, well, Kinesis not going to suspend black boys, so you better figure it out in your classroom. And I said, yeah, that sounds kind of harsh. It sounds really hard, but they could not bring to me anything that was so minuscule. I ran by the code of conduct, and you better bring me something that was suspension worthy,
Mhm.
that you could not. We have lots of, and our district has a lot of supports in place. And if a
Mhm.
kid got to me through all the supports then okay, we might have some issues. But
Uh-huh.
we put too many supports in place for our kids to be suspended without real cause. And
Yes.
so I had it had to go through a filtering system, and that they figured it out. And I think that made the teacher stronger, because
Mhm.
they had to go and reach inside their tool belts to
Mhm.
find other ways to handle kids that maybe they just didn't understand. And it could have
Mhm.
been a miscommunication. So yeah, so I'm excited to teach more administrators how to be courageous.
Excellent. Okay, now Title III.
Title III, our ELLs. Okay, well, KCK has a new unique pleasure of educating students who speak over 75 different languages.
Wow.
75.
Uh-huh.
44% of our population are English learners.
Uh-huh.
It's imperative that we understand at the very foundation of how to teach reading and how we're going to layer supports for our ELL students. Tier 3 says ELP standards be aligned with the state content and academic achievement standards. So basically what it's saying is that we got to teach our kids, and we
Yes.
have to have systems in place to support them. So we have what's called SIOP. SIOP is shared or sheltered instruction observation protocol. And what it basically does, it has some important elements where we are preparing our teachers to teach students of different backgrounds. We're building their background. We're understanding their comprehension and how do we infuse information in at the comprehension level. Their strategies, like, your room is set up in a certain way. We're not just sitting and getting, we have visuals and pictures, and we're interacting, and then we're practicing, and here's the aha. This is good teaching for anybody, right?
Right.
And then we're doing good lesson delivery. That first teach, the first time out of the gate, you're going to be ready and prepared. And so I think we've come a long way in our supporting students who are ELL. But what I will tell you is our students who are different languages are coming and teaching us something too. Like, they're coming to tell us they know something, and don't think that I don't come with skills. And so they're teaching us within weeks and months that they can catch up. They're just as bright as our kids that we have here. And it's exciting to see when they finally just get it and it clicks and they're off and running. So we have a great ELL department. Jackie Jackie Rodriguez is our director, and she's passionate. And so, but with that number of students in our district, we have to be prepared.
Yes. And how many students do you have these days?
I think our number is, and you'll know this, I think we're at 22,000 students in our district.
And over 50% or have the Hispanic. Yes.
Yes. Over.
So ESL is extremely critical.
Extremely critical.
Yes.
We can't just say we're an urban district.
Right.
We are a dual language. We are, and not necessarily dual language. We're not teaching both, but we have multiple languages in our district that we're teaching everybody. We're doing it, and it's beautiful to see. It's really beautiful.
Yes. Well, this has been a fantastic interview. And I personally want to just thank you for giving us such a broad brush with details on what's going on in the school district with diversity, equity, and inclusion. Absolutely phenomenal. Like I said, I love the positive spin, the silver lining details in this whole interview. And so I think when people across the country see this, they'll be very impressed with what's going on in KCK public school system. So thank you again, Miss Kenise. I say it right?
Hell yes, you did.
Okay. And you have a great evening, and we will talk to you again soon. Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Hill.
All
have
right.
a good day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.